the look you have when you're that age and you're like still kind of in your newbie gains is just so awesome.
I mean, if this doesn't sound like a blatant advertisement for when I was on a cycle back then. Coach Greg in today's video, a natty or not on none other than Gabe Dutch. Guy just turned 22. He's young, hot, good looking. He's got everything going for him. But the question remains, is Gabe in fact natural? And so in deciding if the guy was natural, I first wanted to know, what did the internet say? What are people saying about the guy?
Gabe Dutch, 20 years old. Is he natural or not?
And so first of all, he was 20 years old at the time of making this, and so this video is a little old. But was he in fact natural at the time of this recording? If he took performance-enhancing drugs as a teenager to build his physique to the current level and then stopped taking them, that doesn't mean he's natural. It might be natural now, but if you use performance-enhancing drugs to get to the level of where you're at, then you're certainly not a natural athlete.
What I can tell you is that this physique is attainable natural. If you train hard consistently for years, eat well, sleep well.
And so he states this physique is attainable natural. If you work hard for years, eat, sleep, do all the right things, then this is attainable. Well, it is for some people, but for the vast majority of people, that physique is not attainable natural. Do you really think that the majority of people can look like a fitness model if they just work hard enough? Do you really think that the main reason people don't have an amazing six-pack and have exceptional muscle development is because they just haven't trained long enough? Of course not. It really boils down to your genetics. Of course you have to eat, train, sleep, do all the right things, but without genetics, and elite level genetics at that, you are not going to build a physique like that by just putting in the work. I wish it were the case. I wish everyone could just say, well, if I only train straight for 10 straight years, I'm going to look like that. But in the real world, you are not. Unless you have a minimum of above average or elite level genetics, you're not going to look like this.
But I said years, right? This guy's 20 years old right now. I know how newbie gains look. I know how someone's first cycle can look. But his transformation in 1 year, this is not attainable natural in 1 year.
And so he says you could do this in years, but this guy, he's only 20, and he compared his physique from a year prior to physique here and said that there's no way, even with newbie gains, that you're going to make that transformation in 1 year while being natural. And I have to agree with him. I do not believe that this guy is natural. And remember, I did a lot more research this. I'm going to go into details to explain exactly why I believe this. I'm going to show you what I think he did, and explain exactly what his psyche would be, and so on. So stay tuned for the rest of the video. Quick interruption, like the video if you liked it, and if you like my content, subscribe faster than last time so that you can be the first one to get notified. It really helps the algorithm. Back to the video.
I do not think he's blasting his socks off. Probably a SARM cycle or something like that. And like I said, this guy has a good physique. This does not take away his hard work.
I like how he says, oh, I don't think he's blasting his socks off. We don't know. He very well could be. And he says he has a good physique. This is not a good physique. This is an amazing physique. This is by no means a mid physique, a good physique. It's a freaking amazing physique. Let's not downplay just how amazing this kid looks. And so 10 months ago, Gabe Dutch, he posted a video, bulking, why I need to gain weight. In this video, he shares a lot of details, and I do believe that this outs him. It was through watching this video that I believe that he was not a natural athlete.
I've been losing a lot of weight. I hadn't been 165 pounds since I first tried bulking in high school. I've been eating really good and clean. It's just not as enough food that I need to gain.
And so let me explain this yet again. Oftentimes the use of the word bulking is code for I'm going to take super supplements. The special ones perhaps are not over the counter. And so he states, this is the lightest I've ever been since high school when I started bulking. And he blames his loss in body weight, of which it dropped his jaw to the floor, him and Gabby. And he states it's because he wasn't eating enough. He doesn't have a big enough appetite. And so when he was bulking back in high school, he was 185 pounds, and now he's only 165. And so last I checked, newbie gains, they don't just magically disappear. Once you put on a lot of muscle to 185, it's very easy to maintain that because you've only been training for 1 or 2 years. And following that, the gains are going to slow down. They're not going to go at the same rate as they once did. Perhaps he put on 15 or 20 pounds the first year training. The next year, he put only 10 pounds. After that, perhaps only 5. But what's not going to happen is you're going to go in the hole. Lose 15 pounds of muscle by not eating enough. Now, it's certainly possible to lose muscle if you're going on a dramatic cut. You're starving yourself. You're not eating nearly enough food. You're on a 1,000 calorie a day diet. You could for certain lose some muscle. But remember, this kid at the time of recording is about 20 years of age. He hasn't given up training, and his body fat to me is at a healthy zone. Somewhere in the double digits, over 10% body fat. It's not like he's walking around in contest condition, absolutely mind-blowing peeled, trying to over-diet to stay shredded for the camera. He has somewhere between 10 and 15% body fat, clearly very healthy. And so if he was not eating enough food, his body fat would go down. When you go on a cut and you're eating in a calorie deficit, what do you think happens? Especially when you're a 20-year-old kid. Do you suddenly lose all your muscle, or do you start losing fat? You would most likely maintain a certain amount of muscle, and slowly over time you would lose fat. And so if you see him in the gym, he seems to be somewhere slightly over 10% body fat. I don't see his legs, so I don't know exactly what body fat percentage he really is. But he does not look like somebody who starved himself to the point of losing over 10 pounds of muscle. I don't believe this to be true. And you know what could have caused him to gain all that weight back in high school on the bulk to 185 pounds? A small cycle, perhaps SARMs, perhaps steroids, I don't know, something of the performance-enhancing nature of the pharmaceutical variety.
Like going into the workout, I didn't feel like super aggressive or like,
And so he's saying, I didn't feel super aggressive. I was training, I just didn't feel that aggression. When you take performance-enhancing drugs, it can increase your aggression. When you take testosterone, for example, it's anabolic androgenic steroids. The androgenic effect, it increases your aggression. If you train natural, you don't have the same drive to go harder than last time. Even TRT, SARMs, and so on, they can, in fact, increase your aggression in the gym. You want to attack the weights. You want to lift heavier, harder than last time. And so if he was on performance-enhancing drugs in the past, remember that aggression. He compares himself to now. He's not going to feel the same way.
like I look in the mirror and I'm like, holy shit, you look so small. But it's really an illusion because I'm bigger.
How could this happen at the age of 20? For a guy who has newbie gains left in the tank, he's only been training for a few years, how is it possible that he's losing muscle already? He should be looking in the mirror month after month, either looking bigger or leaner or stronger, something positive, something on the rise. When you're a young athlete, you do not suddenly put on a lot of muscle and then struggle to keep that muscle later on. If you develop body dysmorphia, you're that much more likely to want to use performance-enhancing drugs. There is constant pressure to post pictures, to do photo shoots looking more incredible than ever before. And so the temptation is so strong, how is it possible not to use performance-enhancing drugs?
Hopefully like 5 videos from now, like 5 of these bulking videos, I'm like 10 pounds heavier, 15 pounds heavier, hopefully.
And so think of it, 5 more videos from now, he wants to be 10 or 15 pounds bigger. He says he's already gained 5 pounds since California. And so that would total 15 to 20 pounds of extra weight after doing 5 videos. That is a lot, unless, of course, the guy were taking performance-enhancing drugs. And perhaps it wouldn't even need to be a lot. Perhaps it's just clomifene. People seem to be taking that. It's just a pill. It's not injecting. It boosts your testosterone. And so could it be that? Or could it be a SARM? Perhaps he went on the internet, try this, try that, sprinkle a little bit of that, sprinkle a little bit of this, and you put on some weight. It could be anything, and no, we don't know the doses. We can't look at someone and say, oh, I can tell you're on test and trend, or I can tell you're on a lot of this or a little bit of that. We don't know.
Like 2 years ago, around then, I was 185 pounds.
And so 2 years ago, he was 185 pounds. He was a little bit thicker, a little bit puffier in the face, perhaps from taking anabolics.
I was like thick, like my face was a lot thicker, and you know, I was getting big, like I was putting on a lot of like size and muscle.
But he felt stronger, bigger, more motivated to train in the gym. And since that time, he's now demoralized because he's lost 15 pounds or perhaps a little bit more.
Now that I'm, 15 pounds below that, it's demoralizing.
But look at his physique. How many of you wish you could look like this guy? How many of you feel like if you look like him, you would be demoralized? And considering that he weighed 185 pounds 2 years ago, don't you think that with 2 extra years of training, he should have been able to continue to weigh 185 pounds while looking leaner? It's called main gaining. And so rather than bulking and cutting, he could of course try to main gain. You keep your body fat at a healthy percentage, somewhere between 10 and 15% for this guy, and over the time you put on muscle. And considering the transformation that we saw make in only 1 year, did you see how much muscle he put on in that 1 year? How is it possible that 2 years later, he's not continued to improve? If you have elite level genetics to put that much muscle on in 1 year natural, then most certainly in 2 more years of training, you're going to continue to get better. Your physique will not regress.
I've done it before in the past, so like I can do it again, and I need to do it again.
And so just think of it. He needs to do it again. He has to.
I really want to deadlift heavy. I really want to squat heavy, and I want to start putting on muscle again. And if you're not eating, you're not going to be putting on muscle, so.
He desperately wants to put on muscle. He remembers how much he put on back in the day, and he wants to experience that yet again. And I caution you, if you ever do take performance-enhancing drugs, if you do even one cycle, it's going to be very difficult to never do it again. Once you've experienced those kind of gains, feel like Superman, it's hard to go back to feeling normal again. And so what is the answer he's preaching? To bulk. If you only get in enough calories, doesn't matter where they're from, donuts fine, then that is all going to turn to muscle. Do you really think that if you go on a bulk, after all, look at his physique, does it not look amazing? Why would he want to change this? I mean, I can understand trying to slowly put on muscle, but does he really think that adding in 10 or 15 pounds in the next few weeks is going to all turn into muscle? That all of those extra calories are suddenly magically going into the biceps, delts, lats, and so on? I don't think so. What a bulk truly actually does in the real world is increase your body fat at a substantial rate. You can only accrue muscle tissue at a specific rate. And if you try to push that beyond that rate, all the extra calories, that surplus, going to turn to fat.
I've realized that I've just been eating beef and rice literally every day for the past like 2 years, and it's just simply not enough food for me anymore. Because I don't got that willpower to just pound.
Well, explain what you did in high school. You were 185 pounds. How did you get to 185 pounds? Was your body suddenly magically unable to eat more beef and rice? And were you really in a deficit for 2 straight years? Because I do believe if you're on a cut for 2 years, you would have lost a lot more body fat than that. You're still above 10% body fat. Still at a rate where most people can in fact build muscle.
If you are from the ages of like 14 to 20 years old, you got to milk the shit out of the gym and milk the shit out of how your body absorbs sugar and shit.
And so he claims that from the age of 14 to 20, you got to milk the shit out of absorbing sugars and eating crappy food and getting as huge as possible. Because now that he's 21, as he makes his videos, 21, 22 now, he can't do it anymore. His body just can't absorb food. Or was he on performance-enhancing drugs when he made that bulk up to 185? Which you think is more likely? Do you think it's more likely that he just absorbed sugar better back then and it built all that muscle, and then suddenly after the age of 20, he couldn't do it anymore? He had a hard time getting enough calories?
I was looking at a video of me like 2 years ago and like a year and a half ago, and the look you have when you're that age and you're like still kind of in your newbie gains is just so
Cookbook.
awesome. You're shredded, your skin is tight, you know, you look super full all the time because, you know, you're able to eat so much food because you're a growing boy, you know.
I mean, if this doesn't sound like a blatant advertisement for when I was on a cycle back then and my skin was tight and the look you had, the newbie gains, oh my goodness, the skin was stretched, it looked incredible, the pumps. And think of it, we only had 585 pounds for the deadlift when we're training when we're 18 years of age. And I'm supposed to believe that this kid did this 100% natural because his body could better absorb sugars back then? Are you kidding me?
The amount of gains I made just benching, squatting, deadlifting, doing flat 35-pound dumbbell flies, dumbbell laterals, curls, supersets, like just doing everything we possibly can to get like a good workout in.
And we never knew how to train, we just trained. Bench, squat, deadlift, do whatever. The amount of gains we made, we didn't know what we were doing. We just trained and we gained like crazy. And since then, oh, it's so hard now. Poor me. My body, I don't think it metabolizes sugar effectively. And so I can't put on the same size as I had back then. I can't get the same aggression and freakish skin wrapped tight skin I once had. Sounds like a guy who was on a cycle and sounds like a guy who went off of a cycle.
I made in unimaginable gains. Like I just
Cookbooks, I made unimaginable games and glued the cookbook up. Rest my case. Mic drop. I'm not dropping. It's cost $600. I mean, I'm playing this again. Let's hear it one more time.
I made in unimaginable gains. Like I just
Cookbooks.
I got super strong. I got super huge.
I mean, again, one more time.
I made in unimaginable gains. Like I just
Cookbooks. I cooking blew the cookbook up. Something about that first cycle. At least that is my opinion. That's what I believe. That's what I'm going to say. And you can agree to disagree if you don't believe it. But everything this kid described, it sounds like a kid who was on his first cycle, not a kid experiencing newbie gains, which then disappeared, loses strength and so on, can't keep the same size as he once had.
I liked training alone back in the day too still, but you know, there were those buddies going through those same things that you were going through and you would work out with them and, you know.
And so listen, he reflects back on his memories of training with his friends. It's amazing to hear his story. And I can tell this kid has a serious passion for the gym. However, I don't believe he built his physique natural. And why should he come out and say he's taking anything? And so I don't see anywhere where he claims to be natural. And so if he wants to keep it private to himself and not speak of it, then there's nothing wrong with what he's doing. He's not lying to us. He's not saying, oh, I made all those gains 100% natural and I'm better than you because I'm natural and you're not. I don't see him saying this. And so he doesn't have to out himself. He doesn't have to come clean, so to speak. I don't see him saying anything about, look at the gains I've made, and I did this 100% natural. If he did that and he wasn't natural, then, well, there's something wrong with that. But as I see it now, the guy probably did not like his physique. He had pressure to improve. He gained a lot of weight, looks at his physique now, is not impressed by it. He's disappointed. He only weighed 165. He thinks he needs to get bigger. He thinks he needs to get better, and he can't handle it. Perhaps he has body dysmorphia. He described how he doesn't like his reflection in the mirror. He's too small. He's not put on enough muscle. And so, of course, the pressure is real. It's very strong. A lot of young, famous YouTubers, Instagrammers, social media stars have so much pressure to live up to that they inevitably result to performance-enhancing drugs. And in the end, he's an adult. He's not encouraging other young athletes to take steroids. And so I don't see anything wrong with what he's doing. Now, my advice, rather than taking performance-enhancing drugs, try to do it natural, at least first. Supplements you can get from Harder Than Last Time include Ecti Builder and GO2 Max. Of course, you know about creatine, beta-alanine, protein bars, pre-workout, pre-pump, pre-stim. And of course, these supplements give marginal gains. They're not going to double your rate of muscle growth. You build more muscle slowly over time. And if you combine all these supplements, they can add to the effects of your training. You don't need any supplements. And in fact, I don't recommend any of the teenagers out there to take anything. Try to do it 100% natural. You don't even need creatine. Just train. But as you get older, perhaps you experience a plateau. You can add in supplements and get you over that hump and continue to train harder than last time. Interested in any of the supplements from HDLT, please use code Greg, 10% off. And if you have no money, don't forget to head over to the website, enter your first and last name and email address. You're getting a free, it's close to 50 pages diet and training program. You don't need to spend a dime. Visit the website. We're going to help you. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm. What do you think? Do you think the kid is natural or do you think he's enhanced? Don't forget to watch one of the bloops. And of course, the cookbooks, the training books, the coaching plans by me and my team, the Circle Diet book, the Harder Than Last Time clothing line. Get it all on my website. And until next time, I am out.